Hi, I'm Gena. Today, we're going to be continuing our discussion on tool use in AIP agents. Last time, we talked about actions. Today, we're going to be talking about object queries. Before we get started, a quick word from our founder.
Discover how Palantir customers unlock more value from Foundry and AIP thanks to our live instructor-led trainings. We are Ontologize, a group of former Palantir engineers who love teaching. We've trained thousands of Palantir users at leading organizations around the world. Unlock the full potential of your Palantir deployment by going to ontologize.com.
For our exercise today, we're going to be using this wholesale and retail orders dataset from Kaggle. And so that is so that we all have a common starting point. And so in this dataset, every row represents an order, and we have the customer ID, the customer status, the order date, order ID, product ID, quantity ordered, total retail price, and cost per unit. So now make sure you're logged into Kaggle so that you can download the dataset. So you're going to hit download. And then we're going to go make our way over to Foundry and upload this dataset. Note that you may have to unzip this file before you upload it. So now once you're in Foundry, you're going to navigate to your personal project. So you're going to hit Control-J and search for your project. Mine is called Gena Learning Project. Now once you're in your personal project, you're going to hit New, Upload Files, choose from your computer, grab that data set, and then you're going to hit Upload as a structured data set. And now we've uploaded the data set, so we're going to click on it. And here we have our uploaded data. So now looking at this data set, you might notice right off the bat, we have some problems. So customer ID is an integer. It shouldn't be. We don't want to be averaging customer ID, for example. Date order was placed. I don't believe we had e-commerce in the year 17, and so we're going to have to correct the way that this date is parsed. Order ID also shouldn't be an integer. Product ID should definitely not be a date. And so we're just going to tweak these things to make sure that we have our data parsed properly. So we're going to hit Edit Schema. Customer ID, we're going to change this to a string. Date order was placed. So this one, we're going to hit Date and Times and change this to just year. So what happened here is that the way that the date is represented is the year is just 2 digits. And so here, we're just encoding that, and we're going to hit Apply. And there we go. That looks good. Now we're going to do the same thing here, date and time, year, and then hit Apply. And then we get to watch it also transform. Order ID should be a string, and product ID should be a string. And everything else here looks good to me. So now we're going to hit Save and Validate. And there we go. Now, we're going to be using this dataset to create an object type just so we have a common starting point, so there's no prerequisites for this tutorial. But if you already have some other dataset that you want to work with, or you already have an object type that you want to work with, by all means, use your own data, use your own object type. This is for just if you don't have a data source already. And so from here, we're going to go create our object type. So we're going to hit All Actions, and we're going to hit Create Object Type. So this is kind of a shortcut to creating an object type from the dataset view. And you'll see right off the bat, Use Existing Data Source is already clicked. And the data source is orders. And now we're going to hit Next. Now I want to do a little different icon for this. So I'm going to do a shopping cart and change the color. And then I'm going to prefix it with my name. And you should too, because orders is a pretty generic name, and you could easily have similarly named object types on your stack. And now we're going to hit Next. So for the primary key, make sure the primary key is the order ID. And for the title key, it can also be the order ID. It's not a big deal. And let's just check out. Everything looks right here. And now we're going to hit Next. And then Create. So here, that's our configuration for our object. Now we might come back here and do a little extra configuration to make our agent perform better. But for now, we're all set here. So now we're going to hit Save. And then Save to Ontology and Save Changes. And so now we're just going to hang tight until that finishes indexing. And then we're going to come back and start building. And now our indexing process is completed. So we can see that we have 185,000 objects. And if we look at the Data Sources tab, we can see that everything here is all green check marks, which means we are ready to go. Now, we're going to come back to Ontology Manager later, but first we're going to start building out our agent. So now from here, you're going to hit Control-J and search for AIP Agent. And now you're going to click on AIP Agent Studio, open that up in a new tab, because again, we're going to come back to Ontology Manager. And now you're going to hit New Agent. It's going to be a standard agent. You're going to hit Continue. And every agent needs a name. And so this is going to be called our Orders Expert. Ask me questions about orders. Now, an agent is a resource and needs to be saved in a location. So we're going to hit Select a Location. And you're going to save it in your learning project or whatever project you're working in, and then hit Save. And now you're going to hit Create AIP Agent. And so here we are in AIP Agent Studio. So this is our Orders Expert. Here we have the home page where we can see how many sessions have been marked helpful or unhelpful, where it's used, what are the properties. And now over here is where we're going to see the overview, the tools, and the reasoning. Now, let's get to building. So we're going to do the bulk of our work here. And so in the agent configuration, we have the application state, the LLM settings, the model, the instructions, the prompt, the retrieval context, and then tools, which is where we're mostly going to be living today. So as a reminder, there are several different types of tools. There's apply action, which we've done before, calling a function, object query, which is what we're going to be focusing on today, updating an application variable, requesting clarification, and ontology semantic search, which is a legacy feature. Now, we're going to be focusing on object query. So what object query does is it gives your AIP agent the ability to write queries against the ontology backend. So let's go grab our orders object type, and we're going to talk about what's actually happening under the hood here. So you're going to search for orders. So we have Gena order, select, and then confirm selection. So we are now setting up our object query tool. Now take note while we're setting up our object query tool that one object query tool can actually query multiple different object types. So right now we're just going to be querying orders, but we could in theory add multiple different object types here. Now, every tool has a description. This one is no exception. And so here you're going to write a description that helps the AIP agent know when to use this tool. And so here it's pretty simple. Use this tool to answer user questions about orders. Now here, if you click on order, you'll see here that you can choose which properties it's allowed to query. And so here, some examples of properties that you might want to remove. If you have, say, a time series property, you probably don't want to try to write an ontology query against that. If you have some sort of unreadable string that's just not going to be terribly helpful, you might want to get rid of that. In this case, we don't really need to get rid of any properties, but just keep in mind that it's not a great idea to default to just keeping all the properties in, as that can cause you to burn through tokens faster. So you should try to prune the properties where you have extra properties to prune. So we don't have any links on this object type, but links is where you would allow the AIP agent to access certain links on this object type. Now, next up, we have variables. So we have the input variable and the output variable. And so what this option does is it allows you to take in an application state variable, say from your encompassing workshop, and use it as a starting point for this object query. So for example, oftentimes you're not going to want to query all objects at once. And so what this will allow you to do is start from some sort of refined, predetermined set of objects based on the application where this agent lives, and feed that into the set of objects that it's going to query. So the output variable, a query is hopefully going to result in an object set. Now, if you want to be able to save that object set to a variable, you would do so by configuring an output variable. So now we're going to hit back. And now that we have set up a basic object query tool, we're going to write our prompt. So now we're going to hit back. So for the model, you can keep it at GPT-4o or you can change it. I'm going to stick with GPT-4o. So here we're going to write the prompt. So you are an expert on your organization's orders. Your job is to answer user questions about orders using your / to reference a tool, object query tool. Respond in a helpful and friendly tone. So let's ask it some basic questions. So maybe, what is the average quantity ordered? And now I'm going to hit return. Okay, now while it's answering this question, take note here that you're going to see the reasoning behind the response. So we have the user query, we have the prompt, and we're going to take a look under the hood at that. And then here we have the object query where it actually uses the tool. Now, let's go under the hood and take a look at what this prompt really looks like. So if I hit show raw here, you got to hover. You're going to see here that our prompt has actually been put in the context of a much larger prompt. So the user specified the following instructions. Here are my instructions that I wrote. Respond in a helpful, friendly tone. And this starts and ends the user instructions. Here, because we added a tool, we get this kind of preamble. So in order to answer the user's question, you have access to several tools that you may use to learn more information about either the user's question or how to best respond to the user. Each tool is described in order below. So we have the object query tool. That is the only tool we have right now. And you'll see here that based on the object types that I added to this object query tool, the agent is given a list of the object types that it might have access to. Now, you'll see also that with the object types, it has a list of the properties on the object and the property descriptions. So that's something that we're going to be playing with later. So this goes property name, property description, and because we didn't enter any custom property descriptions, the property descriptions right now are just the property name. So here, this kind of bigger prompt that our prompt was put inside essentially explains how to query the ontology. So you'll see here, it's given a couple of different types of queries it can use on the ontology. So filter, aggregate, order by, limit, and then also some example queries. All right, so more example queries, more examples. And then here we have even more instructions. And so this also guides the chain of thought reasoning. So guides what the chain of thought should look like and how the final answer should be constructed. Okay, so that was the prompt, right? It's much longer than what you see here. However, reading through this much longer prompt can help you more profoundly understand what you're doing and also refine your approach to get better results. Now, here we have the object query. This part's also interesting. If you hit show raw here, you're going to see this intermediate thought. So the thought is, I need to query the Gena order object type. To find the average quantity ordered, I will use the aggregate function to calculate the average of the quantity ordered property. So it correctly identified the property that holds this information, and it wrote a query. So it's querying the object type Gena order, and it's aggregating the entire thing. It's averaging the quantity ordered, and the output is 1.67. Now, we can easily check that. Let's go do it. So we're going to hop back over to Ontology Manager and then click on Orders. And so we can check this very easily by going to Quantity Ordered, clicking that dropdown and hitting View Stats. And here I can see that the mean is indeed 1.67. So that is correct. Now, while we're here, let's have a think about some other questions that we could answer. So customer status, you'll see the customer status here. That's like a loyalty thing. It has silver, but also silver in all caps, and also gold in all caps, and also platinum. So there's 3 tiers here, but already I'm having some concerns that our agent might struggle just because of the capitalization inconsistency and whatnot. And also, users of the AIP agent might not necessarily ask questions about customer status or who is a gold status member. They might ask questions like, who's the most loyal, or how many customers do I have in the highest loyalty tier? And right now, we're going to struggle to get good answers to those questions. Let's demonstrate. So here, let's ask the question. So how many orders are from gold customers? So I'm going to enter and look through the result. So we have the reasoning popping up here and the tool use. And you can see here, there's the answer. There are no orders from gold customers. So this is Exhibit A. We are struggling here with the case sensitivity. Now let's try another question. How many orders came from the highest loyalty tier? And so here we have an answer. There are no orders from the highest loyalty tier. And so here we actually did make the connection between loyalty tier and customer status. But you'll see here that the next step is I will filter the orders based on the customer status property to identify the highest loyalty tier. And if I hit show raw, you'll see that it tried to filter customer status by highest loyalty tier, which is not real. So one of the ways that we could handle this would be to encode this in the prompt to give it some description about this property and what values it has and what it represents. But the problem is every builder who builds on top of this ontology object, who builds an AIP agent or an AIP logic function is going to have the same problem. And so we're going to solve this in a better way by augmenting the ontology with a rich property description that is going to help the AIP agent figure out what to do with this property. And that way, we do it once in the ontology layer, and everybody benefits without having to encode specific things in the prompt. So let's take a pause here, and we're going to hop over to Ontology Manager. So here in the Ontology Manager, we're going to add a nice description for customer status that is going to help the AIP agent write its queries. Now, we're going to do a couple of things that are going to be particularly helpful. So first, we're going to describe what sorts of property values are allowed in this column. So that way, if users are asking kind of more relative questions like, what is the highest loyalty tier? Or what is the average order quantity for customers of the lowest loyalty tier? Then we're able to answer those things. And so here, we're going to say, use this property to answer questions about loyalty or customer status. The values in this property are silver, silver, gold, gold, and platinum. This helps us be very clear about what categories there are in this property and that, gold uppercase is not any better than gold title case. Now, this will help us a good deal, so let's go ahead and save and see what this does for us. Note that when we hit save, this is not going to need to trigger a full reindex. This will actually be immediately usable to the AIP agent. So we're going to hit save to Ontology. So here we are in our orders expert. Let's try the same question that we had trouble with before. How many orders are there from gold customers? All right, so we're asking here. And now we have a response, and you'll see if I hit show raw, you'll see that the description that we wrote here is showing up in the prompt. So that's what we wrote. And you'll see that we have an answer that is correct. There are 88,000 orders from gold customers. I've checked it, it's correct. And that includes orders from customers with the status of gold uppercase and customers with the status of gold title case. Now, it's not perfect yet. So let's ask another question. How many orders came from the highest loyalty tier? So I'm going to try that. So here I have my results. So we correctly were able to use the fact that platinum is the highest loyalty tier. But the problem is, this is actually not correct. This is only orders associated with platinum title case, not platinum all caps. And so clearly we need a little bit more work here. Now again, ordinarily the solution would be just clean your data. But this is just one example of how we can use property descriptions to make our results better. Now let's go update our property description a little bit. So now we're going to add a very simple but pretty impactful suggestion here. So use contains instead of equals in your queries. This is going to make it case insensitive. So now we're going to hit save and then save to Ontology and then save changes. Now let's try it out. So here I'm going to repeat my question. How many orders came from the highest loyalty tier? And so it's thinking, we have the chain of thought going. All right, now we have a correct answer. And why do we have a correct answer? It's because the prompt, instead of exactly equals, is using contains, and that gets contains title case and contains uppercase. And that also is going to handle questions like, how many platinum orders were there? Now, big picture, the thing to really take to heart about object queries is that, again, you're not actually sending your data to a large language model. What you're doing is you're sending this prompt with the properties and the property descriptions into the language model, and then getting back a query that we're then going to use against the ontology backend. So all of what we've been working on today is using the prompt and also using different property descriptions to help a language model write better queries against the ontology backend. And that concludes our introduction to object query tools in AIP agents. Don't forget to save and publish. Thanks for watching. We hope you found this helpful. Let us know what you want to see next in the comments.